Chapter 93 of The Plum in the Golden Vase. Chongzhen edition of the embroidered portrait. Wang Xing'an shows charity to poor children and Taoist Jin commits adultery with his young brother. The poem says, she hides in tears in front of the steps, feeling ashamed of herself in the crowd. The smell is like wine, and the feelings are like others. The warm breeze spreads the music, and you can watch the dust of flowers on a sunny day. It's all a place to add sorrow. Living in seclusion, begging for the spring. Speaking of Chen Jingji, after Sister Ximen died and was sued by Wu Yunyang and a lawsuit was filed, Feng Jinbao, the singer, returned to the hospital and had just received a scrape. The house was sold, the capital was gone, the boss was gone, and the guy was gone. He also said that Chen Ding sent people outside, took away the money, and drove Chen Ding away. The family didn't pay enough for each plate every day, so they went to young Darling's house from time to time to ask him about the whereabouts of half of the cargo. One day, when he came to young Darling's door, he shouted, "Is young Darling at home?" Unexpectedly, young Guangyan kidnapped half of his cargo, and while he was away, he sold some silver coins and fled. When he found out that his wife had been hanged at home, his mother-in-law sued him in the county and was imprisoned for half a month. Young Darling suddenly came to live at his house. When he heard that Jingji came to call him and asked about the whereabouts of the cargo ship, he sent his brother Yang Erfeng out and asked Jingji's important person, "You asked my brother to do business outside. There has been no news in the past few months. I don't know how to leave him in the river. In Hanai, you have lost your life, but you still come to my house to find the whereabouts of the cargo ship. Human lives are more important than your cargo?" This Yang Erfeng has always been a rogue, making money, with purple flesh on his arms and yellow hair on his chest. Long, he is a straightforward bachelor. When he came out, he grabbed Jingji and asked him for someone. Not Jingji hurriedly broke away and ran home. This young Erfeng deliberately picked up a three-pointed tile wedge, drilled his head open, and his face was covered with blood. He rushed to Jingji and cursed, "I will fuck your empress. What kind of money do I see in your house? You come to my house and fart. Give me a good meal." Jingji Jin was desperate. He rushed home and closed the door like an iron barrel. He let young Erfeng lead his parents, scolded them, and smashed the door with a big brick. But his nose was broken. Don't dare to vent your anger. What's more, the lawsuit just came out, and the dream rope snake was also afraid, so he had to endure it. Exactly, the young grass is afraid of frost and the sun, and evil people will be punished by evil people. Not long after, he sold his big house, found 70 taels of silver, bought a small house, and lived in a secluded alley. 2 girls were behind and sold 1 Chongshire, leaving only Yuan Shaoer to rest in the same bunk with him. Less than half a month later, I vacated the small house and went to rent a house to live in. Chenin also left. The family had no business. Yuan Shaoer also died, and she was single and alone. All the tables and chairs were sold, leaving her completely penniless. Not long after, the rent was not paid and he got into a cold bunk and took himself there. When Hanako saw that he was a hard-working boy from a rich family and was handsome, he asked him to sleep on the hot king and cook pancakes with him. Someone came over that night and taught him how to bear the fire, play the clapper, and ring the bell. It was the 12th lunar month at that time, the last part of winter. Heavy snow fell from the sky, the wind blew up, and it was very cold. The worker, Jingji, knocked back his clapper and sent out the knight's military cards. He inevitably walked through several streets with his bell. It was snowing again, and the ground was treading on the ice again. I was so cold that I shrugged my shoulders and shivered. Just before the 5th watch, when the rooster crows, I see a sick flower lying under the wall. He is afraid that he is dead. The general manager assigned him to watch over him and found some grass for him to roast. Jingji stayed awake all night, so he leaned down and fell asleep. I don't want to have a dream. I dreamed that I was in Ximen King's house, how I was blessed with glory and wealth, hooked up with Pan Junlian, played and joked, and woke up crying from my sleep. The flowers asked, "Why are you crying?" Jingji said, "Brothers, how do you know about my suffering?" He suffered from years of hardship. His wife died, and he had no food or clothing. The dead slave escaped and was sold, leaving him alone in a foreign land. I went to Yisi shop to ask for the leftover food. and stayed in the manor at night, leaning against the defeated wall. There is only one way behind him, which is to play bang in the cold bunk. Chen Jingji stayed in a cold shop at night and begged for food on the streets during the day. There is an old man in Qing County, whose surname is Wang Mingxuan, whose given name is Tingyang. He is more than 60 years old. His family is well off. He is kind-hearted, generous in giving away money, dedicated to helping the poor and relieving suffering, loves good deeds and worships God. The two sons born to him are both responsible for establishing their own families. The eldest son, Wang Jin, inherited his ancestral position and became the steward of the herdsmen. Zheng Qianhu, the second son, Wang Shen, became a student in the Fexu school. The old man hired a supervisor and opened a pawn shop. Every day he had plenty of food and clothing, and he was free to relax, listen to sutras in the Brahma temple, and preach in the Lin Palace. When nothing happens, he administers medicine to save people at home and picks up pearls to recite Buddha's name, because there are 2 apricot trees in the back garden. The Taoist name is Xing'an Zheshi. One day, Xing'an, wearing a double-brimmed scarf and a hydration Taoist uniform, stood at the door. I saw Chen Jingji hitting him on the doorstep, then squatting on the ground and kowtow. Xing'an, who was busy, did not return the courtesy and said, "My brother, who are you? I'm so blind that I don't recognize you." Jingji stood tremblingly and said, "I'll tell you the truth. I'm a pine seller. Chen Hong's son." The old man thought for a long time and said, "Are you Chen Daquan's son?" Seeing that his clothes were ragged and haggard, he said, "My dear nephew, why do you look like this? How are your father and mother?" Jingji said, "My father died in Tokyo, and my mother also died." Xing'an said, "I heard that you were staying at your father-in-law's house." Jingji said, "Outside the house after my father died, my mother kicked me out. After her daughter died, she sued me and started a lawsuit. I also sold my house and lost all my capital, so I was idle and unable to make a living." Xing'an said, "My dear nephew, where do you live now?" Jingji remained silent for a long time and said, "To tell you the truth, this is what I said. Thinking about how you and your father had such a good relationship back then. You were still young and went to school with your father's head. How could you end up in this position? It's hurtful. I don't care about you or my son." Jingji said, "That's right. I never come to my Uncle Zhang's house for a long time." After asking him a question, the old man moved him to the guest seat inside, ordered the boy to set the table, put out snacks and rice, and taught him to eat as hard as he could. Seeing that he was cold, he took out a green cloth cotton Taoist robe, a felt hat, another pair of felt socks and cotton shoes, weighed 1 tael of silver, and 500 copper coins, handed them to him, and said to him, "My dear nephew, these clothes, shoes and socks are with you, and the copper coins are with you, renting half a room to live in. With this tael of silver, you can do some small business, and you can live by it. It is better than living in a cold shop without learning. Come out. How much is the monthly rent? Come here, old man." Chen Jingji kowtowed on the ground and said, "My nephew knows." He took the money and left the door of Xing'an. He didn't look for a house or do business, so he just spent the 500 coins in hotels and restaurants every day. The 1 tael of silver was pounded into some white copper pots and used in the street. The patrolling bandit was taken to the section of the square and beaten until he was exhausted and even had sores on his buttocks. In less than 2 days, the cotton clothes on my body were gone, my socks were exchanged for food, and I was still begging for food on the street. One day, I hit Wang Xing'an again and passed by the door. Xing'an was at the door. I saw Jingji coming to kowtow. He had no clothes and socks on his body. He was only wearing his felt hat and barefoot shoes, and he was begging and shrinking from the cold. The old man then asked, "Master Chen, how's the business going? The rent money has arrived. Are you here to collect the rent money?" Chen Jingji was speechless for a long time. After asking again and again, Fang said so and so, but it was all gone. The old man then said, My dear nephew, this is not how you live your life. You can't bear the light and the heavy burden, but you have done some small work, which is not better than begging, so as not to make others laugh at you, which is a shame. It's your father's name. Why don't you obey me? Then he went inside and taught Tong to bring him some food. He also gave him a pair of trousers, a white shirt, a pair of foot bindings, a sling of copper coins, and a bushel of rice. You can start a small business by selling some charcoal, beans, and melon seeds, and you can live a good life. It's better than asking for food like this. Although Jingji agreed, he took the money and rice in his hand and left the old man's house. He spent a few days eating cooked meat and noodles in the cold shop with Hanako, playing with money. I lost my white shirt and trousers. In the first month of the first lunar month, I walked down the street with my arms on my shoulders again, not wanting to see the old man. I walked under the gable of his front room and stood facing the sun. The old man saw him coldly and did not call him. He was robbed and then kowtowed on the ground in front of his roots. Seeing that he was still like this, the old man said, "My dear nephew, this is not a common strategy. Your throat is as deep as the sea, and the sun and the moon are as fast as a shuttle. How can you fill up the bottomless pit? Come in, and I will tell you that there is a place to go, and I'm free and I'm safe for you, but I'm afraid you won't go." Jingji knelt down and cried, "If I feel sorry for you, I don't care where you are, but I'm willing to go." Xing'an said, "I'll go here. Not far from the city, there is a Yanggong temple in Matu, Linqing. It is a land of fish and rice, a land of abundant money and food, quiet and elegant. Disciple and grandson, I will give you a gift to become a monk. It will also be a good thing to learn some classics and bring blessings to others." Jingji said, "I'll take care of you. It's good." Xing'an said, "In this case, you go. Tomorrow is a good day. Come early. I will take you there." Jingji went. Mr. Wang quickly called a tailor and made two Taoist robes, a Taoist bun, and complete shoes and socks for Jingji. The next day, Jingji arrived. Mr. Wang taught him to take a bath in the empty room, comb his hair, put on a Taoist bun, put on a new coat and trousers inside and outside, put on a silk Taoist robe on the top, wore Yunlu felt socks on the bottom, and prepared for plates of soup and fruit. A jar of wine, a ruler, and 5 taels of silver were sealed. He then rode on horseback, hired a donkey and rode with Jingji, followed by Tong and Tong. The two of them carried the box and load, went out of the city gate, and went directly to Linqing Matu Yanggong Temple. Only 70 miles, a day's journey. By the time we arrived at Yanggong Temple, it was already getting late. Mr. Wang dismounted his horse and entered the temple. I saw lush green pines, dense cypresses, 8-character red walls on both sides, and 3 red doors in the front, forming a beautiful temple. But see, the mountain gate is towering, and the palaces and pavilions are layered. There is a gold book hanging on the forehead of the edict, and a colorful painting showing the appearance of the court and the entrance. The 5 main halls are decorated with 12 dragon kings. The 2 corridors are engraved with millions of water people. The flagpole stands tall and the handsome words attract the wind. It extends in all directions, and social rites are enjoyed in the spring and autumn period according to the time. The rain is favorable, the wind is gentle, and the people along the river offer sacrifices. The incense and its powerful spirit are there for thousands of years, and the officials and people in the 4 realms rely on it. A little boy at the gate had seen Wang Xing'an and reported it to the abbot. Taoist Ren hurriedly dressed and went out to greet him. Wang Xing'an asked Jingji to wait outside with gifts. After a while, Taoist Ren invited Xing'an into the abbot's song pavilion to greet him and said, "Old Master Wang, why don't you come to my temple to express your congratulations? I am so lucky to have your presence today." Xing'an said, "It's just that I'm tied up by the mundane affairs at home and haven't seen you for a long time." After the greetings, the host and the guests sat down and the little boy offered tea. After the tea, Taoist Ren said, "Old layman, it's getting late today, so you don't want to go." He ordered the horse to be led to the back trough to rest. Xing'an said, "I don't come to your temple unless I have something to do. I have come here to ask you a favor. I wonder if you would be willing to accept my request." Taoist Ren said, "What advice do you have for me, old layman? Just tell me and I will obey your orders." Xing'an said, "There is a son of an old friend. His surname is Chen. His name is Jingji. He is only 24 years old. He is handsome and smart, but his parents died too early and he lost his education since he was young. As for his ancestors' family background, they are not unknown and have some property, but unfortunately they lost it in an official affair and have nowhere to live. I think of him as an old friend of yours, so I want to send him to your palace as an apprentice. I wonder what you think." Taoist Ren said, "I have a son of an old friend. His surname is Chen. His name is Jingji. He is only 24 years old. He is handsome and smart, but his parents died too early and he lost his education since he was young. As for his ancestors' family background, they are not unknown and have some property, but unfortunately they lost it in an official affair and have nowhere to live. I think of him as an old friend of yours, so I want to send him to your palace as an apprentice. I wonder what you think." The scholar then said, "How dare I disobey the old master's order? But I have a difficult life. Although I have 2 or 3 disciples, they are troublesome and none of them is successful. I often make them angry. I don't know if they are honest or not." Xing'an said, "To be honest with you, Master, I am just a carefree person who does my duty honestly. I am timid and do things in a down-to-earth manner. I am worthy of being a disciple." Taoist Ren asked, "When will it be delivered?" Xing'an said, "I saw it waiting outside the mountain gate. There are also some small gifts. Please accept them." Taoist Ren, who was panicked, said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier, old master?" At the same time, he said, "Yes, you are welcome." Then the people carrying the box brought in the gift. Taoist Ren saw the note saying, "Here is a piece of rough meat, a bottle of Lu wine, a pair of pig's trotters, 2 roast ducks, 2 boxes of tree fruits, and 5 taels of white gold." I, the student, bow my head. He immediately bowed his head and thanked, "Old layman, why do you give me so many valuable gifts? I feel disrespectful to refuse them and feel ashamed to accept them." Chen Jingji wore a golden Taoist bun on his head, a green silk Taoist robe, cloud shoes and clean socks on his feet, and a silk belt around his waist. He was handsome, with white teeth and red lips, and a face as white as powder. He walked in and bowed to Taoist Ren, bowing for pairs of 8 bows. Taoist Ren asked him, "How young are you?" Jingji said, "I was born in the year of the horse, and I am 24 years old at the beginning of the new year." Taoist Ren saw that he was really smart, so he gave him a Dharma name called Chen Zongmai. It turned out that Taoist Ren had 2 disciples. The eldest disciple was surnamed Jin and named Zongming. The second disciple was surnamed Zhu and named Zongshun. He was called Chen Zongmai. Wang Xing'an was invited out and met the etiquette. While accepting the gifts, the little boy held the lamp, put down the table, and set the meal first. Then the wine, the dishes and cups were piled on the table, which were nothing more than chicken feet, goose, duck, fish and meat. Mr. Wang didn't drink much, and the apprentices took turns to persuade him to drink several rounds. Mr. Wang couldn't bear the wine and left. There was a bed in the room, so he rested for the night. The next morning, the little boy scooped water to wash his face, washed and brushed his teeth, and Taoist Ren came early to serve tea. After a while, the meal was set, and 2 cups of wine were drunk, and the head and mouth were fed, and the labor fee for carrying the box was paid. Before Wang Lao got up, he called Jingji over and told him, "Study the classics carefully and listen to the master's instructions. I will come to see you often and send you clothes, shoes and socks according to the season." He also said to Taoist Ren, "If he doesn't listen to the teachings, I will punish him. I will not cover up for him." At the same time, he secretly told Jingji, "After I leave, you must clean up your mind and correct yourself. Study your original career. If you don't behave yourself, I will not care about you." Jingji promised, "I understand, son." Wang Lao immediately resigned from the Taoist priest position, went out, got on his horse, left the Yangong temple, and went home. Jingji has been a Taoist priest in the Yangong temple since then, because he saw that Taoist Ren was old, had a red nose, a strong body, a loud voice, a beard, was good at talking and drinking. He was only responsible for welcoming and seeing off guests. All matters, big and small, were in the hands of his eldest disciple Jin Zongming. At that time, the Imperial Canal was just opened, and 2 sluices were set up in Linqing to save water, regardless of whether they were officials or civilians. When the boats arrived at the lock, they all came to the temple, some to pray for blessings, some to offer sacrifices, some to set up divination and bamboo, and some to do good deeds. Some donated money and rice, some gave incense, oil, paper and candles, and some left pine, mugwort and reed mats. This Taoist priest then ordered his disciples to open a money and rice shop on the Horsehead with the surplus money and grain in the office, and sold the silver to accumulate private pockets. His eldest disciple Jin Zongming was not a man who kept his duty. He was about 30 years old and often kept prostitutes in brothels. He was a drunkard and a womanizer. He also had to clean young disciples who slept on the same bed and talked a lot over time. Because Jingji had white teeth and red lips, a face as white as powder, a handsome and smart face, and his eyes spoke, he insisted that he live in the same room with him. In the evening, he had a drink with him until midnight, got him drunk, and slept on the same bed. At first, they slept at the same place, but he felt that Jingji's feet were smelly, so he asked him to sleep on the same pillow. After he had slept for a short time, he was told that he was breathing heavily, and he was told to turn over with his buttocks pressed against his stomach. Jingji fell asleep and ignored him. He made his penis hard, put a stick upright, smeared some saliva on the head, and thrust it into his anus. It turned out that Jingji had been fucked by the beggar flying ghost who liner in the cold bed, so his anus was enlarged, and the penis went in without him noticing. Jingji said nothing, but thought to himself, "This guy is doomed to fail. He has gotten a lot of advantages from all sides, and I don't know what I think of him. Give him some sweet treats, and let him pay some money in my hand," he deliberately shouted. Jin Zongming was afraid that the old Taoist priest would hear him, so he quickly covered his mouth and said, "Good brother, be quiet. I will do whatever you want." Jingji said, "Since you want to seduce me, I won't say anything, but you must do 3 things from me." Zongming said, "Good brother, let's not talk about 3 things. Even if it's 10 things, I will do it." Jingji said, "First, since you want me, you are not allowed to sleep with those 2 disciples. Second, I want to take the keys of the big and small rooms. Third, follow me wherever I go. Don't blame me. If you do all of this, I will do this for you." Jin Zongming said, "It doesn't matter. I will do it for you." That night, the 2 of them tossed and turned, and went crazy all night. Chen Jingji had been involved in romance since he was a child, and he didn't know anything. At that moment, he was coaxed into endless joy by the mountain oath, the pillow vows, the obscene words, the sucking and licking. On the second day, all the keys were handed over to him. He did not stay with the 2 apprentices and slept on the same bed with him every day. 2 times a day, 3 times a day. Jin Zongming repeatedly praised him for his honesty. Taoist Ren believed him and paid money to get him a certificate of ordination. From then on, he did not take precautions. Chen Jingji often went to Matu to play with money. He saw Chen Sainer, a prostitute in the yard, and said, "Fang Jinbao's brothel owner died, and he was sold to Zheng's family and called Zheng Jinbao. Now he is working in the big restaurant. Why don't you go and see him?" The young man did not change his old feelings. He took the money and followed Chen Sainer to the big restaurant in Matu. It would be better if he did not come. If he came, it would be like enemies who have been enemies for 500 years come together, and relatives who were married a few years ago meet again. There is a poem to prove it. Don't be stingy with your golden clothes in life. Don't let down your youth in life. If you want to pick flowers, you should pick them right away. Don't wait until there are no flowers and you have nothing to pick. It turned out that this restaurant was the first restaurant in Linqing, named Zi's Restaurant. There were hundreds of pavilions inside, surrounded by green railings, close to the hills, facing the Guanhe River, a very busy place with many people and ships. How can you tell that this restaurant is neat? Just see, the carved eaves reflect the sun, and the front building is full of flying clouds. The green railings are low to the windows, and the green curtains are high above the windows. The people playing the sheng and tasting the flute are all princes and nobles, holding cups and holding glasses. There are singing women and dancing girls, to kill drunken eyes. Look at the blue sky with thousands of clouds and mountains, to seduce the soul of poetry. Turn over the misty water of the river of snow. The green willows beside the building are crying wild birds, and the green willows in front of the door are tied with a flower horse. Chen Sainer led Jingji upstairs and sat down in a pavilion. He asked the waiter to clean the stage, arrange some top-quality wine and fruit to go with the meal, and asked him to go downstairs to call the prostitute. After a while, there was a sound on the stairs, and Fang Jinbao came up with a gong in his hand. When he saw Jingji, he bowed deeply. It is often said that when lovers meet, they can't help but shed tears. It is just like a few sweet words are like the chirping of orioles, and a string of pearls falls on the string to buy. When Jingji saw him, he pulled him to sit with him and asked, "Sister, where have you been? I haven't seen you." Fang Jinbao wiped his tears and said, "Since I was interrupted in the county, my mother was frightened and died soon after. She sold me to Zheng Wuma's house. These 2 days, I have few brothers, so I have to come to Linqingmatu to catch the drunkards. Yesterday, I heard Chen Sainer said that you opened a money shop here and wanted to see you. I didn't expect to see you today. Don't want to kill me." After saying that, he cried again. Jingji took out the handkerchief from his sleeve, wiped his tears, and said, "My sister, don't worry. I am fine now. Since the lawsuit, my family property has been lost. I have become a Taoist priest in the Yangong Temple. The master has entrusted me with a lot of things. I will come to see you often in the future." So he asked, "Where are you staying now?" Jinbao said, "I am staying with Liuer in the inn on the west side of the bridge. There are hundreds of houses, brothels and prostitutes all staying there. During the day, I go to the wine houses to drink." As they said that, the two of them sat together and drank. Chen Sainer heated the wine and went upstairs and brought the pipa. Jinbao played and sang a song with Jingji, called Putional. Tears are falling, tears are falling. 3 cups of farewell wine, 3 cups of farewell wine. The phoenix and the crane are separated, the phoenix and the crane are separated. The slanting sun outside the mountains is falling. The sun outside the mountains is falling. The sky is dark, and I am reluctant to leave. I am reluctant to leave. When the two of them were drunk, Zhu Mayan took off his clothes and made love, and then went to the next room. Chen Jingji had never been close to women. He had been thirsty for a long time. When he met Jinbao, he tried his best to stay with him, especially talking and drinking, and he was unwilling to stop. After a while, they finished their work and put on their clothes. Seeing that it was getting late, Jingji said goodbye to Jinbao, gave Jinbao 1 tael of silver and Chen Sainer 100 copper coins, and told them, "Sister, I will come to see you often. Let's meet in this room. If you miss me, let Chen Sainer call me." He went downstairs and gave the inn owner, Zi Sanlang 3 coins of silver for wine. Jingji went back to the temple. Fang Jinbao sent him to the bridge before leaving. It is exactly looking through the autumn water because of money, crying for Deng Tong.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.